Last minute's always the longest.
Sure.
Pictures have been here for a long time. So it is 5:15. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Has everyone had a chance to review the minute meetings from last month? Okay. Can you get them?
Yes.
Perfect.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Motion moved.
Because Jason is virtual, we will need to do a roll call vote.
Okay.
A little different.
Sorry
Greg,
about that.
how do you vote?
Aye.
Travis,
Aye.
Keegan,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Jason,
So does that mean motion passes then?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Is there anything that we need to amend to the agenda at all? All right. So next we have ready financial reporting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all again. It's like the third time I've been up here this month, and we'll make that 4 next Monday. Today we'll be doing the final 2 RDC reporting requirements of the year. The first one we'll do is the TIF impact presentation. That's the annual presentation we have to do. Sort of general overview of the TIFs, the allocation areas we have, when they expire, some of the financial positions, and the actual impact of the TIF allocation areas, which I'll go into what all those numbers mean in a little bit. After that, we'll do the TIF spending plan, which is a newer reporting requirement we did last year as well. That would be the first one. There's a second one. It's sort of like a budget for the RDC, but it's nowhere near what it's like for these for the city side or the county side. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
If we want to go straight into that second page, this is simply the list of reporting requirements the RDC has had to do. You'll see there's 4 check marks, which means we've done 4 of the 6. The 2 remaining are, like I mentioned, the December 1st spending plan and this December 31st end of year TIF impact presentation. Go to the next page. That is the list of the allocation areas that we have when they're created, when they are set to expire, and their incremental AVs in 2025. The 2 newer allocation areas that we have are downtown allocation area and HPA, and Jefferson Street is replaced by downtown. So that's why that's no longer there. Again, I've mentioned this in previous reportings that since we have no bonds outstanding, there's no expiration year, they're all to be determined. Now for pay 2025, we're required to show AVs. That doesn't really tell you a whole lot, so I actually did prepare pay 26's incremental AVs. It's not on your presentation, I just had it listed out. For downtown, we're looking at $209,000 next year, so a $209,000 incremental AV increase. For HPA, that jumps from 0 to $448,000. No change in Tipton Ford. For West Industrial Drive, that goes from $293,000 to $561,000. No change in West Side Residential, and for Buttonwood, it goes from $208,000 to $1.3 million. So all in all, that's increased from $500,000 from all TIF combined to $2.6 million. I do want to point out that these are preliminary numbers. Things could change before abstract comes out next year in March. So take these numbers with a grain of salt. Normally we do see some changes, but not a whole lot. We might see 2.6 to 2.9 or 2.3 to 2.9, that range, but this is a good benchmark to look for. And if we think about TIF revenues wise, that's roughly $47,000 for all of those TIFs combined. Yes. So we go to the Yeah, 1 second. The next page is the how TIF work. It's sort of like the triangle slope. It's a general overview of just how TIF AVs work, just to keep it high level. Before we create the TIF allocation area, there's the base AV. Once developments goes onto that TIF area, the AV becomes incremental AV, and that stays within the TIF. What is in the base stays with the base. After the TIF expires, all that increase in TIF AV will go back to the base AVs. But that's, again, TIF doesn't expire. The TIFs don't expire here, so technically that doesn't happen yet. But once it does, all that incremental AV that I referenced in the previous slide will go back to the base. Next page is the financial positions page. Right now, there's only revenues received last year, plus the revenues we're projected to receive this year. So you can see if we combine the two TIF allocation areas with revenues, it's that West Industrial and Buttonwood, 8.8 plus 5.2, that's about $14,000. So what did I say earlier, 47 or 43 next year projected. So we're looking at a $30,000+ jump from this year to next year. Now you'll see downtown allocation area, that's a new TIF. Why is there a beginning balance? That's just because we've allocated Jefferson Street's TIF revenues from 2020, from last year to this year. So that's why there's a beginning balance, but no revenues this year. And next page are the future plans, which are just what projects have been in discussion with the mayor and the city council. Northgate and road improvements are actually the same thing. They're very similar. The road improvements are for that Northgate development, and that's actually what the bond was for that we had a meeting for last week. It's that road improvement plus county buyout bond. And the apartment project, that's a project that Mayor Matt and I have discussed. That's a while back, and there's a lot more intricacies to that project to work out compared to Northgate. Now, the next page is the TIF impact question. So this is a page sort of just to set up the next couple of pages to explain what the TIF impact really is. So the way our state works is we're a levy-based, levy-driven state, which means no matter what your NAVs are, your levy stays the same. Rates will go up and down depending on what the other two variables do. So let's for a TIF, even if the TIF goes into the base, what will happen is levy will stay the same, the rates will decrease. But when we're doing this exercise with this calculation, we're assuming, hey, let's throw all the TIF AV into the base, and let's assume we're not levy-driven state anymore, we're a rate-driven state, which, again, we're not. So that means every dollar that is taken from the TIF going to base, and all the units will capture on all that. That's what this exercise sort of does. We go to the next page. The important part is that blue in the middle, circuit breaker impact, rate-driven funds impact. Circuit breaker impact is essentially saying if this TIF AV was to go to the base, what will be the decrease in circuit breaker, not increase in levy, but what will be the decrease in circuit breaker, and that's about $4,800 for the city, which is, if you look, that is the majority of the impact is the city at $4,800, and the next one will be the school at just $500. So outside of the city, the impact is pretty minimal. And if we think about it, we're a rate or a levy-driven state, but we do have certain rate-driven funds like the CCD. Those funds are really the only ones that would benefit from a TIF going into the base because the rate stays the same. If AVs go up, then those funds will collect more levies. So we did a calculation of impact of, okay, let's take, if these AVs goes to the base, what will be the actual increase, and this is what units will actually see in increased revenues. So again, pretty minimal this year. The highest, again, is Tipton Civil City is $250, and Tipton County at $85. So as opposed to receiving I believe it was $16,000 we projected this year, we would have received, $300. So we always say dollars in a tip allocation area means more than if it's in the base. This sort of illustrates that. The next page is basically a summary of that previous page. We coined this idea of the TIF margin. Basically, for every $1 that goes into the TIF, how much of it is generated due to the TIF, how much of it would have, if it went to the base, would have reduced circuit breaker or increased revenues from rate-driven funds. The 58 cents mean for every dollar, 58 cents is because of the TIF, and 42 would have been a circuit breaker impact or rate-driven fund impact. If we look at the TIFs all added together, we are projected to receive $14,000 this year. $8,000 of that was due to the TIF. 5.9 would have went to circuit breaker impact or rate-driven funds. Are there any questions on this presentation? Doesn't circuit breaker or the TIF financial positions or the AD estimates?
Jumping back to the revenue real quick.
Yep.
The financial positions. So is that 8,810 on the entire year, or is that up until this point right now?
That is expected for the entire year for West Industrial Drive.
Do you happen to know what it is right now at all?
I do not,
Okay.
but I remember it's pretty close to half of that, so
Okay.
which is expected. We collect in June, collect in December. Normally when we review settlements, again in June and December, red flags will raise if anything's low. I don't believe any were for tips. So I could check on that, but I don't believe we had any issues with tip collections this year. Anything else?
Any questions from you, Jason?
Nope, I'm good.
Do you need to pass it, or do I go straight to the spending plan?
It just goes straight to the.
Okay, perfect. The spending plan. You guys have the Exhibit A's and the resolution, yes? The Exhibit A looks like this. This one. A list of numbers. Yes. So like I mentioned, TIP spending plan, this is a really new reporting requirement that just started last year. Last year was the first TIP spending plan reporting requirement. It's essentially the DLGF saying you have to plan or budget in quotes for what you're going to spend next year, what categories there are. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like a mini budget, but no need for a public hearing. Not even really an adoption. We just really put numbers on here, and DLGF doesn't really need to approve it. So what we normally do, we look at what this RDC is most likely to spend on next year, and we put numbers in there and we inflate it a little bit. The reason we do that is because, let's say, for example, professional expenses of $35,000 for next year. If we go above that, we'll have to come back to the RDC and do another spending plan. So to avoid, me coming here again to do another reporting, we'll just set that a little higher to avoid any potential spending over what is planned. Based on conversations with the mayor and the RDC earlier this year, it does sound like what the RDC is planning on doing, the TIP dollars, the number one to pay for professional services to make sure the RDC can pay for all the expenses that it incurs. So that's why the professional expenses are a little higher than the rest. Capital expenditures is that there is something that the mayor or the RDC sees that we would like to spend on. We have a little bit over $10,000 there, and again, that could be changed if we do find something that we want to invest in. I want to point out that expenditures for property tax levy, that might scare you guys a little bit, but that's not actual property tax levy that you guys are paying. That's just the bonds. So that includes last year's bonds and this year's bonds. Again, we have jacked that up a little higher. That is closer to $300,000 than $400,000 that we're putting here, just because when we were sizing the amortization schedules for this year's bonds, we knew this next year's payment was gonna be higher, we just didn't know how high. And in fact, it was, just from the amortization schedule I showed last week, it was higher, so, again, it won't be this high, and it won't be something that you all will really need to worry too much about. Is there any questions on this specific Exhibit A itself? Okay. And if there are no issues with it, all we need to do after this is make sure, sign the resolutions after this meeting, and I will work with Jenny on getting that uploaded onto DLGF.
I think since the resolution was just given today, we're gonna table that and we'll approve it next week.
Yeah.
And then I will get it to you.
Okay, yes, yeah, no problem. We have until December 1st to get that uploaded, so there's no issues with that.
So I gave you all the hard copy, and that's just for review, and then we can vote on that next week.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Justin?
Open the board discussion now.
Well, yeah, the update I have is from property 625 West Madison's. We have received the paperwork back from Chad Edwards, so we're moving through the formal process now, getting him, I guess, going to closing, so we can transfer the property back to the RDC. We'll, in the meantime, communicate that packet for public offering to the RDC. We got a little bit of a process to get through here, but to get our eyes on that as soon as possible. But we'll have to get the 2 appraisals, and similar to what we did with Northgate Industrial Park, go through the public offering process. So all that's forthcoming, but we've gotten the paperwork finalized from him, and we're now getting a claim approved to our next council meeting, so we can transfer that officially back to the RDC.
Any other things to discuss? Nope. Is there room for public comment?
Move to adjourn.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed.
Thank you, Jason.
And just a reminder, the next meeting is Monday at 4:30, the 27th at 4:30.
Okay, yeah, Jen.